Today on Homeworthy, we're bringing you to the Hollywood Hills, where you'll meet Mark D. Sikes, an author and interior designer who is renowned for creating classic and traditional spaces that reflect his personal style, timeless, spirited, and all-American. Mark's Regency and Mediterranean-inspired home was built in the late 1920s. Inside, a theme of blue and white creates a harmonious thread throughout each space. He takes us to his gorgeous gardens, where you'll see a stunning view of his ivy-clad home and the Los Angeles skyline. Throughout his career, Mark has worked on incredible projects across the United States and abroad, including the White House and Blair House, also known as the President's Guesthouse. He recently published Forever Beautiful, the third book in his Beautiful Trilogy, which celebrates a full year of beautiful interiors inspired by nature. So join us as Mark takes us on a tour of his stunning home. You won't want to miss this. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Mark D. Sikes. Welcome to my home in Los Angeles, California. Come on in. Hi, I'm Mark D. Sikes. I'm an interior designer, and today we're sitting in my home in the Hollywood Hills in California. I was born in Texas and lived there for 6 months, and my family and my parents moved to a small town in Illinois called Decatur, Illinois. And my father was a preacher, and I lived there till I was 15. My grandparents were close, my aunts were close, and spending that time in the Midwest was really wonderful because you really got this understanding of what a home felt like. Right after that, we moved to Nashville, Tennessee in the South, spent many years there. And that's really where I learned a lot about gardening and entertaining and more about design and more about aesthetics. I went to college, first thought I wanted to be a dentist, went to Baylor, did not work out, ended up getting a financial/economics degree in the University of Illinois. I moved back to Nashville, Tennessee after college, quickly realized I probably wasn't cut out for the financial industry and started working at Banana Republic, which is an amazing all-American retailer. I was there during the heyday when it was growing rapidly between the 90s and the 2000s. They were owned by The Gap. I started in stores, and then I made my way to California, to San Francisco, to the corporate offices. I think at the corporate offices over the last 15 years that I was there, it was such an informative and amazing time for me because The Gap really invested in their people, really trained creative people how to execute creativity, learned a lot about marketing, learned a lot about storytelling, learned a lot about strategy. And I really think that time really shaped my thoughts and my processes and my systems around how to be creative and how to design. When we moved to Los Angeles, we looked at real estate for quite an extended period of time. Saw all different types of houses. We really had a specific area that we wanted to be in, which was West Hollywood, the Hollywood Hills, the Beverly Hills area. But also being a classicist and a traditionalist, I wanted a classical traditional home, which is hard to find in the hills because most of the time things are bi-level or like kind of rambling and spread out. Well, we discovered this wonderful home in the Hollywood Hills that was built in the late 1920s. It's got Regency/Mediterranean details, and what I was so drawn to initially about the house was that it has a really traditional floor plan. Where you walk in an entryway, and you have a living room on the left and a dining room on the right, the kitchen's behind you, and you have an upstairs that is in the same format. So it was a little bit more of a Georgian style architecture of the house, which was very rare, and it was also in the Hollywood Hills. So we were taken with it immediately and saw the potential in it, and that's how all this came about. Welcome to our home here in the Hollywood Hills, and this is our entrance/foyer. And it's kind of the center of the first floor. The living room's on the left and the dining room's on the right. And we wanted it to feel light and airy because it is kind of an open space. So the floors are all whitewashed. The walls are in a beautiful off-white. This amazing table from David Iatesta is also in a really beautiful ivory finish. And you'll notice throughout this space things that we love, blue and white, baskets, are all integrated. Also, what's kind of fun in the entryway is all the art on the walls are wonderful pieces of art that I've collected over the years. Some from the Paris flea market, others just from artist friends, and they're all kind of framed in very tonal, clean frames. Well, the entry table is very simple. It's just, we always have a beautiful plant, a few blue and white plates that are always on the table, either for keys or for mail. But this is kind of how it always is. And, we're known for blue and white. We love blue and white. The lighting fixture is from Vaughan Lighting, and it's an alabaster pendant. I love the Greek key that's around it. I was drawn to this particular light because of the shape, and I didn't want it to distract from the entryway, the living and the dining room. And I love the light alabaster finish because it really is a beautiful finish with all the tonal neutrals and creams in the house, and then the bronze chain is also a wonderful accent, much like the wrought iron railing going up the stairs and the black doors. I just loved kind of the finishes and the different colorations of the particular light. These columns are original to the house, and when we first bought the house, they were painted solid. And I struggled a little bit with what to do on them. And we had a person that was helping us do some of the construction work and painting, and I asked them to strip the columns first, and as they got further in the process, I was like, oh, that looks really wonderful, the weathered technique. So we kind of kept that, and then we did a decorative painting here on the pediments. But this was a little bit of an organic process of how they ended up, but they are original to the house. They create some architecture and some lovely symmetry. As a very young child, I always was drawn to beauty, all types of beauty. Beautiful homes, beautiful gardens, beautiful people. I was mesmerized by my mother's magazines. At the time, she would get, the Vogues and the Harper's Bazaar and the Town and Countries, and the W magazines. I specifically remember all the old Estee Lauder campaigns back in the day, where there'd be this beautiful model sitting in a beautiful setting, wearing a beautiful garment, and she would be selling a perfume or something, but it really told a whole complete picture of that person and around beauty. So I was always mesmerized by those things. I always noticed what people wore, how they entered rooms, how they smelt. There was a distinct difference to me than a woman who was physically beautiful, but a woman who had a lot of style. So these were always things I was really drawn to and loved. So it was not a surprise that later in my life I, found a place for myself in the retail world, and I loved it. And it's not a surprise that, that turned into an interior design career. Okay, we're going to take a couple steps down to our living room, which was right off of the entryway. And this room is fabulous, mostly because of the heights of the ceiling and because of the ceiling. The front windows open up to the front gardens at the front of the house, and then these back windows/doors open up to the garden. We often have the windows open, which really creates this wonderful indoor-outdoor experience. And like the entryway, we wanted everything to feel kind of like light and airy. So you'll notice the color palette is mostly creams and off-whites with little touches of blue. Lots of beautiful textures in the mix here. The wicker, the bone inlay, the antique gilt console, the lacquer Parsons table, just kind of a really, I think, wonderful mix of things and a wonderful mix of finishes. This seating plan is interesting. When we are entertaining, we want to have little places that people can have conversations, whether people are on this side of the room or on this side of the room. So it's kind of a fun, eclectic seating plan. We have wickers throughout the house, but in this room we have a couple pieces of Bonacina wicker, which kind of sit adjacent to one another. We have these wonderful Chippendale chairs from Jonathan Burton that are one of my favorite things I've had for years, one on either side of the room. Also love the trees in the room, the whole idea about the indoor-outdoor experience and making you feel that this living room is connected to the outside. I think the trees play a great role in that. Over the years, the rooms evolve, homes evolve, but we've collected many, many books. So just recently, 4 or 5 years ago, I had these bookcases made for this particular space to start housing more of our library. So not only are they functional, but they're also beautiful, and I think they add an architectural element to the room that's really wonderful and great. Sometimes there's plants in them, But our house is constantly rotating. And I think that, when you come back and visit next time, you'll probably notice that we move things around. So sometimes these vessels are on the ground with plants in them. Sometimes I put baskets on top of the bookcases. But as for now, some of our blue and white is showcased up there at the top. And some of the plates that you saw in the entryway on the entrance table, the additions to those plate collections are here in the bookcases on plate stands. So there's little things sprinkled around, but there's common threads that, of those things that tell the story of the house. This room is also filled with many collections. Besides the books, you'll notice I have a lot of wonderful little ivory inlaid rattan boxes that are, some are here on the mantle. Some are also sprinkled around on the side tables. I always find that, when I'm traveling, I'm always like finding something new that I want to add to the collection, and I always want to showcase them in the house in some way, so I get to enjoy them. But I always find, whether it's my house or anyone's house, is that the best way to showcase collections is to bring them all together in one location and really make a statement with them. I think it's a little bit more powerful and a little bit more clean than having things sprinkled all around. So here on the coffee table is our lapis blue stone collection of boxes and little bowls and little vases, and that's my little trick, or my personal trick to how we like to showcase collections. Yeah, the mantle was original to the house. We had a decorative painter come in and decorative paint it, so it felt like a little bit weathered and distressed. It almost feels like plaster, which was the intention. But yes, this was original to the house, or original to us having the house. When I first moved in the house, the fireplace we filled with coral, and just recently we changed it to birch logs. Yeah, but this is original, and the same decorative painting that's on the fireplace is also on the columns in the entryway. So over the years, we've curated and collected lots of wonderful pieces of art. Around the room, there's a few small pieces that are basically neutral drawings, but this is more of a statement piece. This is this wonderful abstract piece of art from our friend Catherine, who is from Alabama, and I think now lives in Georgia. Catherine Jones. Just love the colors, love the textures, love the graphic. I'm a huge fan of contemporary abstract modern art mixed in traditional interiors. I think that's a way to make traditional rooms and classic architecture feel fresh and more modern. But I love this piece of art. And in every room of the house, we always have lots of candles. This particular room has a couple candlesticks on the mantle, a couple hurricanes on the coffee table, little candles sprinkled around on the tables, and we always light those in the evening, which are really beautiful. We have our bar set up. Many of the things on the bar are things I've had for years. I mean, these little eggs I've had for 25 years. This piece of coral I had in my first apartment. So these are just kind of things that I love and are sentimental. I love all the textures and all of the colors. This wonderful match strike that was given to me by a dear friend is very special. Just a lot of little things that I've had for a long time that are important, that I think look lovely in the space. Besides the trees, there's always lots of plants in the house. Michael, my partner, has a wonderful green thumb. And there's also baskets all around the house. So underneath this console here, we have this basket full of all my hats. So we're always going in and out of the house, and I always want to grab a sun hat. So this is a wonderful place for them. Well, I think the best compliment anyone can give you about your home, of course, we all want to be told our home is beautiful, but I love it when people say, oh, your home is so inviting, it's so comfortable, it's so relaxed, it's so easy. I also think being a decorator, it's wonderful when a home feels eclectic and curated and not necessarily so decorated. But most importantly, we want people to feel comfortable in our home, and I think that's the best compliment. Well, I mean, I think with any type of house you decorate, mine included, on projects we work on, you instinctively kind of, when you walk in, you know what you want to do, and it just kind of tells you what to do. I think the first thing that we did here was we wanted to lighten everything up. So the floors were like a really dark gray color. We bleached them, whitewashed them, lightened them up, painted pretty much the whole main level on the floor like holistically. a really pretty off-white. It was very simple, and over the years, rooms have evolved and rooms have changed, and we've added layers. But initially, it was really just kind of becoming up with like a tonal, very clean, very light palette, and using black as an accent. I've always been drawn to classical design, an all-American aesthetic, and when we found this house, of course, those influences played a big role in the house. The house is light, it's airy, it's filled with comfortable silhouettes of furniture, it's filled with wicker, it's filled with objects and collections that we collect and that we love. And it has a very indoor-outdoor feeling, which is also a hallmark of the things I love, but also our work. You really feel like you're connected, the interior spaces are connected to the outdoor spaces and vice versa. We spent a lot of time transforming the gardens. We're in the hills, so the whole backyard had to be excavated and landscaped and terraced. But that part of the house, the gardens themselves, have become such an important, intricate part of the house, and it really creates this like environment where you're this complete indoor-outdoor experience. So welcome to our dining room. A room that is formerly for dining, but it's not often used for dining. We really wanted this space to feel like another space that people could hang out and just enjoy. I think what's unusual about the space is these wonderful banquettes that we added to the sides and to the little niche. So it is a great place when you're taking a phone call, or if you have company and you're having cocktails. The room is covered in fabric, this wonderful Brunswick and Fee check. We put on the walls. We also put it on the ceiling. You can tell that the ceiling's biased, kind of creates this tinted effect. It's also the same fabric that's on the drapery. But we did a little bit of having fun with the applications of, again, turning the check onto a bias on the leading edge and around the bottom. There's so many beautiful trims and so many beautiful layers to all the pieces. There's this wonderful batik blue and white that's on the back of the drapery. And we have this wonderful sheer here. This room gets direct sunlight at different times of the day, so the sheer is wonderful. This is from Perry Frey, and it's just a wonderful, also like a large window pane linen sheer. Our banquettes also are kind of a mix of fabrics, a mix of trims. So we have this wonderful like little ticking stripe. We have the same blue and white that's on the walls on pillows. Again, some of these wonderful batiks that are like on the back and the front of the pillows. And beautiful trims, bullions, cords. These particular, this is a really fun story about these Gracie panels. So we had these Gracie panels made for the living room several years ago, and they have since moved to the dining room. The pattern, I was really drawn, I was reading an article about Dita Blair. So Dita Blair had these beautiful panels that were made by Gracie years ago when she was in DC with designer Billy Baldwin. And those panels went from her DC house to her New York house, and her New York house was, I think 8 years ago, featured in Wall Street Journal. And I just loved them. I loved the pattern, and I found out with Gracie, who we work with a lot, that those had been a part of their pattern archive. So they worked with me on recreating them. I kind of created my own palette and framed them. And these are, I guess, were original, and we brought them back and had them colored for the room, and I just think they're wonderful. They really kind of tell the whole palette of the house. And again, we're always trying to incorporate the indoors with the outdoors, and I love the scene with all the green trees and all the people and all the little blue and white. But these are wonderful framed chinoiserie panels that are on this wall and then also on the other wall over the banquette. The same style of light that you saw in the living room, the Galerie de Lampe lights that have the little frames, are also in this room as little wall lights. Again, I love lamps, floor lights, and wall lights. They're really great for intimate lighting and for functional lighting. We have them on all 4 walls. And then to create some type of structure and some type of balance and symmetry, we have these wonderful pedestals that are in the window with some blue and white urns. Throughout the house, you'll see, and you have already seen, wicker sprinkled throughout the house. I love wicker and I love the texture of it and what it does to a room. It instantly makes a room feel inviting and casual and comfortable. These are bonded china. So these wonderful chairs that we have, and they don't necessarily match the table, but I love the texture. Really fabulous seat cushions that are made in this wonderful Lee Joffa fabric by Carolina Irving. That kind of fit into the blue and white theme, into the batik theme. Sometimes this table is skirted. We recently took the skirt off just to kind of have the room feel a little bit different, but sometimes it's skirted and it's skirted in the same check that's on the walls. Like everyone, I go out shopping and I find things that I love and I just buy them and I have no idea where they're going to end up. So I found this wonderful camel at John Roselli many years ago, and it's a little camel table. And I just fell in love with it and had no idea where we were going to put it, but it's found a home here in the dining room, and it's always got a wonderful plant on it. If we have wild, crazy parties, sometimes it has like an ashtray or a couple cocktails on it, but this little guy is our friend, and our dog Poppy loves it. Barks at it every morning. The chandelier is from David Iatesta. This wonderful chandelier. Love the gilt, love the verdigris, painted green. You know, it's always tough to find a light for a dining room that doesn't feel too fussy, but does make a statement. And I think that this chandelier makes a statement, but there's something simple about it, which we love. And I love how it plays with the color palette of the chinoiserie screens on the wall. Really creates this kind of relationship to them. It doesn't overpower the room as well. I've often asked the question about who I would invite for dinner if I could invite anybody. And it is a very long list, but if I had to pick two, I always say I would love to invite Jackie Kennedy, because she's an eternal icon to me personally and someone that I just love and kind of semi-obsessed with. And then I would invite Oprah Winfrey, because I'm also obsessed with her, and I would love that them being my dinner guest, because I know Oprah would ask all the right questions and we would get to hear all the wonderful stories from Jackie, and I think that would be just the wonderful wish dinner guest that I could have. And also having someone that's living today and someone that's not here, I think would be really fun. Well, we entertain two ways. Sometimes we'll entertain where, the doors are open and we put all the food buffet style on the kitchen island, and people can either go out and sit in the garden, or they can come sit in the dining room, or they can sit in the living room, just like very casual. This particular table has several leaves, so this table can be opened up and we can add 4 to 6 more seats to it. These banquettes also come in handy because the table can open up and people can sit at the end of the banquet, also at the table. But yes, we use the dining room in multiple ways. Less formally, most of the time casually for eating, but also just for hanging out and spending time, just because of the banquettes and the wonderful swing arm lights. 8 years ago, we published our first book, which was called Beautiful, and it was mostly made up of projects from our earlier work. And that particular book was, the chapters were formatted around mood boards, basically color stories. So we took our work and we created chapters that were distinctive to the color stories that we're drawn to, and were distinctive to stories that I talked about in my blog and that I talked about on social media. With the success of Beautiful, the first book, we published a new book and we called it More Beautiful. And we wanted to continue the story of beauty because it had been so successful, and we felt like we had more to say, we had more to show. So that particular book was broken up in chapters around styles of homes, because at that point I really wanted to show a range of work and of like the different styles and different types of homes that we could do. But there was this common thread of like our signatures that were woven through. So when you looked at one of these rooms or one of these chapters, you would know that was Mark D. Sikes Interiors. And then just recently, as of a couple weeks ago, we published our third book, 8 years later from our first, and it's called Forever Beautiful. And it is going to round out the Beautiful Trilogy and continue the story of beauty. And this book we're so proud of because it has 12 chapters. It has 12 projects. The projects are all over the country, from East Hampton to Palm Beach to Bermuda, Kansas City, Chicago, Beverly Hills, Montecito, Vail, all over the country, showing all different styles of houses. But each of these chapters are reflective of a month of the year. And the whole story of Forever Beautiful is really getting deeper into beauty and what beauty is, and really talking a lot about how nature and how the environment and how what's right outside your door can inspire the color palette, the textures, and the sensibilities of your home. So it's really a love letter to nature. And I think it's such a wonderful way to kind of round out the Beautiful Trilogy and the story on Beautiful. And now we will probably move on to something else in a new way, but we're very excited about it and really proud of the work. And the same team that worked on the first book and the second book worked on this book. So it's a joy to see how everything evolved and has grown, and I celebrate all of them. So now we're in the kitchen / family room, which in every home is the heart of the house. And this is probably where we spend most of our time. The room, when we first bought the house, this was 3 separate spaces. There was more of a galley kitchen, and this back little area was a separate bedroom. But we kind of opened it all up to make one large space. And the room is anchored with a wonderful island. And then this niche here is kind of where we watch TV, we read, where our dog Poppy spends a lot of her time. But this area is kind of where we spend most of our time. And again, like the other spaces in the house, you'll notice there's wicker. In this room, it's Bielicki Brother wicker, but in a little bit of a darker finish. More boxes. This is kind of where all the blue and all of our white collections are of pictures and platters and different things. Book overflow. Most of the books now are in the living room, but this is also a place where books tend to migrate into the cabinets. Like other places in the house too, you know, there are collections of blue and white. You'll notice the plates, some plates that we have in the entryway in the living room. There's more here in the kitchen / family room. And in here, we decided to hang them all on the walls, which I think are really kind of a fun way to display a collection. We have little clover shapes on over the doors, a long linear collection going over the French doors out to the garden room. And there are also some more on the side of the kitchen as well. I always like in a kitchen for there to be a balance of closed cabinetry, open cabinetry, and glass doors. So we have all. We have closed cabinets over here is where we obviously have more of our dry goods and our spices and some dishes, and then glass cabinets here on either side of the sink where we have our glasses and our everyday dishes, and then open shelving for books, platters, and pictures in the family room. So here's a little bit of our everyday china. Of course, like most households, we just have solid white. We also have a collection of antique willowware, which is blue and white. We also have a collection and multiple pieces of spodeware, and all of these can obviously be used individually or all mixed together. These are just little bowls and dishes that we use for multiple things when we're entertaining, for nuts or for little like salads, and these are just like from the antique market, which are really fun. And then these are just these wonderful dishes. Actually, these are from Bunny Williams, did years ago with Ballard, which we just love them. And this is our kind of everyday china. And if I ever find new pieces of china that I love, we always like add it. But most of the things that we have, we like to mix them, and layer them together. This is a little fun thing that we always have. That's a little catch-all. We have a little basket for our keys. This little basket, which is actually Bunny Melly Melon's basket that was given to me as a gift many, many years ago, that I keep here, and it has my stationery and has any invitations or note cards. I love fireballs, and we love mints for company, and those are also always out here. And phone chargers, of course, right here, but this is like a little, for us, a little catch-all of everything. Our fridge always looks pretty much like this. The first level is always a mix of drinks, water, tea, sparkling waters. The second shelf always has bowls of fruit, boiled eggs, just, everyday things that we're always grabbing. Poppy, our dog's food here. Dinner, items, more vegetables, and things are always kind of on the second level. We have bread and cheeses, more drinks, lots of milk, but the refrigerator is pretty much always like this, with always the same things in them. This is our little breakfast table, a Saarinen table that I literally have had for 25 years. I think I had this in one of my first apartments. And some Billicky little dining chairs that are, I love these chairs because they're not only functional chairs for the table, but it's also super comfortable. Whenever we have our nieces or family here, we always sit here and play games. So it's a really comfortable place to not only eat, but also to play games, and it just sits right off the garden. And I think this room and the living room, you really have this indoor-outdoor experience that we love. These doors are usually always open, and everything kind of feels connected together. So tucked on either side of the kitchen, one side has a small laundry room, this side has the powder room. And this is the more formal powder room that is used for guests, even though it's in the kitchen family room. And this room, it feels like a little jewel box, a little blue and white jewel box. There's hand-painted Portuguese blue and white tile on the lower part, and then this wonderful Adelphi wallpaper that also feels like a tile pattern above the wainscot. Again, those same style of lights that we love, the Galler de Lamp lights with really cute little shades. And you know, all the things a little powder room has. We have a basket, we have candles, and there's always fresh flowers. But this is our powder room. Well, we are working on so many exciting projects. Projects all over the country. Some current projects that we're working on are in Kiowa Island, and a beautiful project in Baltimore, which is a John Russell Pope house. Working on a project in the Hamptons, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. An incredible project here in Los Angeles called Falcon Lyre, which used to be Rudolph Valentino's house that we're resurrecting. So many, many wonderful projects. We also just finished probably the most special project that I've ever worked on. It's called Blair House, which is in Washington, D.C., which is the Guesthouse of America. But 40 years ago was the first time that the house had really been touched from a design perspective. And at that time period, Mark Hampton and Mario Botta, who are both complete iconic idols of mine in the design world, had done it. And nothing has really changed since then. So it was such an honor and a joy not to only work on Blair House for our country, but to also follow in the footsteps of Mark and Mario and like continue that story. So our job, we felt like, was just to continue the story of beauty and continue the story of what they had started. But again, you know, make the house feel more inviting, more comfortable, knowing that there's so many people that are visiting there. We wanted to really think about what their experience would be like. Not only do we want them to feel like they're in the most beautiful guest house in America, as it should be, but that it was also inviting, and they felt at home, and it was a big task. So we just installed that a couple weeks ago. It's incredible. You know, from a design perspective, everything in the house is American, everything in the house is custom. We worked with some amazing collaborators: Schumacher, Samuel and Sons, Christopher Spitzmiller, Patterson Flynn Martin, Frederick Victoria, on everything being custom in the house and completely designed for the house. We worked with some decorative painters to do custom decorative painting, and Bill Adair to do beautiful gilding. So we're very proud to say that everything in the house is American, and we're really proud to say that everything is American. And we're really proud to say that we think it is the most beautiful guest house in America, and hopefully the most inviting as well. Another really special project that we had the honor of working on was with Dr. Biden on her East Wing offices. We were approached several years ago and worked with her and her team on creating these beautiful design schemes that were reflective of her and how she wanted to host people in her office and her area. The East Wing had never really been touched from a design perspective, so it was a joy and an honor to work with her. She's so lovely and so appreciative, but also just be a part of American history. Well, welcome to our garden. I have to say this is probably my favorite space in the entire house. We spend tons of time out here. This is kind of our sanctuary. Even though we're in the Hollywood Hills, when you're out here, you really feel like you're tucked away somewhere really far off and removed. And it's a very simple, you know, this looks like there's lots of layers, but it's very simple. It just has brick patio floors, brick steps, lots of potted boxwoods, big ficus trees that kind of, you know, surround the gardens and create walls. Big ivy growing all over the house and all over the gardens. And that's basically the mix of plants. All of these potted terracotta pots are always filled with annuals or perennials. So right now we have really beautiful geraniums, but different times of the year. There's different things that are potted in all the pots. This is our fountain. I always recommend to everyone that everyone should have a fountain in their house. And whenever you position the fountain, you want to have it in a place that you can really hear it in multiple locations. And our fountain, our house isn't really large, but the fountain you can hear in the living room, you can hear in the kitchen, you can definitely hear in the bedrooms upstairs. And it's such a wonderful sound of serenity. It's so peaceful. So this part of the house was probably, beyond the renovation that we did inside, this was probably where there was the most work done when we first moved into the house. We back up, we're in between two streets. There's a street behind us, so there's a street in front. And all of this was all filled in, was just like a hill of wild palm trees and wild plants. And you really had to almost like, you know, fight your way through to get from the front to the back. And initially I immediately thought, oh my goodness, we need to terrace this and clean it up and create more structure. And so this area we spent the most time on. I think they said there was like 13 semi trucks of dirt that were removed to create these terraced areas. But it's again very simple. It's just brick walls. As we got up to each layer, you know, the first layer is just a grassy knoll. We get up to the third layer and there's some more like parterre garden-esque and another fountain. So this is the first terrace, and it's just very simple. There's benches on either side, and this is where our dog Poppy plays, and this is like her little area, and a beautiful view of the garden itself, of the terrace and the house. So this is the second terrace. And then we'll go up here to the upper level. And on this side we have a really pretty structured parterre with a little fountain back here, which is lovely. And a bench, a viewing bench. And up here you really have wonderful views of the city. So this is probably the best place where you can see Los Angeles. This view and the view from the guest bedroom is what I would say it's really wonderful at night when you can really see LA. When you're standing up here, not only do you have the view of Los Angeles, but we have all these little, you know, we have boxes for potted flowers, and these flowers in the boxes under the windows also change with all the annuals. We have striped awnings on the primary master Juliet balcony, and then on the guest balcony. So I think that add a little bit of pattern, a little bit of texture. And then, like I said earlier, the fig ivy. We planted this fig ivy 12 years ago, and there was nothing. And now the house is completely, pretty much covered with fig ivy, which I think feels really romantic and really cozy, and you know, just makes the house feel like really old. I love it. So first off, we have a little small guest room that also is a library, and it's also my dressing room. And I think what's so charming about this particular room is, you know, I love stripes, I love blue and white, and we took one single stripe. It's actually a design of mine with Schumacher. We just put it on everything. The walls, the ceiling, and on the daybed. The Romans are very simple. They're just ivory linen with some blue inset tape. And in this particular room, we built these bookcases when we first moved in, and they house my magazine collection. So I had basically, I'm going to age myself here, but probably 25 years of magazines that range from fashion to shelter, all the way back to like 1993. And you know, these particular magazines went from me from apartment to apartment, from house to house, and they're still here, and we keep adding to them. So that's the room is basically made up of that collection. Wonderful little guest room. That's one of my closets where I, have all my suits. So it kind of also serves as a dressing room as well. Over the COVID time period, I did spend a lot of time in this room going back to old magazines and finding inspiration and putting lots of post-it marks on them. And this is an area where I come to over and over again. And I just love, I think there's nothing like paper and touching it and feeling it. I know the world is becoming much more digitalized, but it is wonderful to kind of have all these magazines as a source of inspiration and something to collect. And they have a story. They just have been with me for many, many years and in many different parts of my life, and I just love them all. I often think about this. I often think to myself, I question, will I ever not feel inspired? Or I will never feel like, there's nothing that's like, that I see that's creative. And it's never happened. And I think that if you keep your eyes open, if you get out and about, if you are truly engaged in seeing the world, there's beauty everywhere. And I think that beauty is inspiring. And as I become more creative and I find greater sources of inspiration, I realize it could be in a piece of art, it could be in an old tapestry, it could be in a visit to a museum, it could be going to the library and just looking through old books. I mean, it can come from a million things, but I think if your head is up and your eyes are open, and in many ways your heart being open, I think you can find creativity and inspiration every day and all the time. And I feel like, it's interesting too, it's like I always find I'm most inspired on Sundays, or for some reason, that's my personal day where I can actually look at books and look at magazines and take walks. And I think if you're rested as well, if you're rested and you're relaxed, your mind is so much more open to creativity and to creative thoughts. I always come in on Mondays with all these ideas because I've had time to. It's not conscious either. It just happens naturally. I think there's something to that. So here we are in the primary bedroom, and the bedroom sits on the second floor and overlooks the gardens. So when we were outside earlier, you all saw the Juliet balcony, and the Juliet balcony is off the primary bedroom. And this room has this wonderful custom Gracie wallpaper, very subtle blues and creams and naturals. And we added like little blue and white pots to the scene at the lower part. And the room is very simple. It's kind of all about one fabric, this wonderful Brunswick fabric that we love. There's a couple slipper chairs, again. There are wall lights for reading and lamp lights for reading and table lamps. But if we're not in the kitchen or we're not in the garden, this is where we obviously spend the big majority of our time. And we have these two wonderful chairs here that I use to do work sometimes and read, but also to watch TV. This particular part of the bedroom, because it's an older house and because it's not too large, we had to make it as much capacity as possible. So we added all these wonderful built-in cabinets to the wall that are where clothes are or different things, but they're mirrored, which makes the space feel larger and more open. So you kind of don't even realize that there are these cabinets here, but they are. And more books, of course. These big, wonderful bone inlaid boxes that have accessories and cufflinks and pocket squares and all those small things. Michael has one and I also have one. Here's one of my little hidden closets, and as you could tell, I love navy blue and I love white, and that's pretty much what the entire closet is. But this is where all my sweaters are, my pants and my casual shirts, and a couple pairs of tennis shoes. This is an antique screen I've had for years, and it's been in several homes and in multiple locations in this home. And added it to this room to kind of like separate my closet from the larger room of itself. But it also balances out the chinoiserie chest on the opposite side of the bedroom. Love what the dark lacquered and the chinoiserie adds a little drama to the room, so it's not all like pale blue and ivory. But this is a wonderful chest from John Roselli that I've had for years. Again, another little collection of another little ivory boxes. Wedgwood, my uncle and aunt collect wedgwood, so they always give me little pieces of wedgwood, so this is super special to me. Every little surface and every little corner has something that's a little sentimental. Well, the word home means lots of things to me. I think I touched on it earlier, but growing up in the Midwest and being near my grandparents and being in my aunt's homes and my home, I really understood and had a great sense of what a home felt like. And when I think about a home, I feel like it's someplace that's inviting, someplace that's comfortable, a place that's easy, that doesn't feel precious. I think it's a place also that's full of traditions, whether the traditions are around the times of year. But that is what I think of when I think of what a home feels like. I think in the South, my years in the South, that experience, I really learned a lot about more entertaining and more about design and architecture, gardening. I think there was just a sense of traditional formality in the South that you really learn a lot from a design perspective. And then these years of living on the West Coast, I think the West Coast is a wonderful combination of both the Midwest and the South, because you have, this wonderful weather, and you have this wonderful kind of little bit more of the ease, and there's a little bit of a bohemian nature. The combination of all of that combined with those wonderful feelings of the home in the Midwest and those really wonderful traditions of the South kind of have come all together. And all three of those experiences have really shaped and informed our design work and who we are. And each project and each book, I think you can really feel that sense of inviting, comfortable environment, that sense of a traditional, classic, elegant design, and then the ease and the casualness and the spirit of California.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.